Metal shifts into limbs. A head forms without features. It stands taller than any vehicle you've seen. Someone laughs nervously. You order contact drills. Blank rounds crack uselessly against armor. The machine turns. A flash. Candidate 44 drops. Another flash. 122 falls. Panic spreads. You order retreat. The machine advances with mechanical precision. You grab 7 when he collapses. His leg bends wrong. He screams. You assign 2 candidates to carry him. You move. The forest becomes a maze of decisions. Every second you choose direction without communications. Compasses spin when the machine approaches. You use that as warning. You move downriver because water slows sound. The machine follows. It kills 109 when he lags. It crushes 15 when he trips. You keep moving because stopping means more bodies. You feel the weight of command settle heavier than any rucksack. You reach the cadre acting as enemy force for the exercise. They lie dead. The realization shifts everything. This isn't training. You study impact lines across the valley. You deduce descent from sky. Extraterrestrial isn't a word you want to think, but logic forces it. You find an ASV. You load survivors. You drive. The machine appears behind you, relentless. You find live ammunition in a compartment. You fire. Rounds spark uselessly. Armor holds. You choose terrain. You steer toward a slope. You trigger a rock slide. Stones crash down. The machine stalls. You accelerate. The ASV hits a fallen tree. The vehicle flips. You crawl out. Only you and 7 remain. The others are gone. You pull him into cover. He asks if this is real. You say yes. He tells you he knew your brother. The words hit harder than any impact. He says your brother talked about you constantly, said you'd make Ranger. You absorb it without responding. The machine rises from rubble and sends a signal skyward. You watch it and realize it's communicating. You calculate time. You calculate options. You notice vents along its torso, small openings designed for heat. You remember overheating engines. You decide on risk. You lure it toward a construction site. You pour small rocks into the vents while it tracks you. The machine heats. Movements slow. You keep feeding debris. It glows. It explodes. You carry 7 back to base. The base is destroyed. Sheridan and Torres stand among wreckage. They tell you the asteroid was an invasion. Machines landed worldwide. War has begun. You tell them about the vents. They listen carefully. Sheridan says that's the first weakness anyone reported. Torres looks at your number and tells you you're in. You accept without celebration. They assign you to lead the next assault. You nod. You stand with the Ranger tab finally earned, watching smoke rise from distant impacts, understanding that becoming a Ranger didn't end anything. It started something larger. Every decision from here will carry consequences beyond your team. You think about your brother's last words. You think about the metal. You think about the machine sending signals into space. You realize the fight isn't just survival anymore, it's adaptation. You step forward because hesitation already cost too much, and now you carry responsibility not for 8 candidates, but for everyone who depends on the next decision you make. You step into the operations tent with mud still drying on your boots, and the silence inside is heavier than the smoke outside. Maps cover every surface, but none of them matter anymore because nothing on them accounts for machines falling from the sky. Sheridan hands you a tablet showing impact points. They spread across continents. Some land near cities, some in empty terrain. None of them behave randomly. You study the pattern and realize they form overlapping arcs, like the machines are controlling territory before anyone understands they're under attack. Torres asks what you see. You tell him it's not invasion for destruction, it's invasion for containment. They're boxing humanity in. You don't say what follows in your mind. Containment implies something worse than killing. Sheridan tells you that Command is reorganizing surviving Ranger elements into rapid response teams, small units, high mobility, no expectation of extraction. He tells you your experience with the machine makes you the logical choice to lead the first contact patrol. You understand what that means. You'll be testing theories with real lives. You accept anyway, because refusing would hand the responsibility to someone who doesn't know the vents exist. They give you a new team, not candidates now, but Rangers, hardened, quiet, observant. They don't ask about your past, they ask about the machine. You explain the vents, the magnetic interference, the signal. You outline strategy. Avoid direct engagement, exploit overheating, use terrain, conserve ammunition. They listen without interrupting. One of them asks what happens if the vents are reinforced on newer models. You answer honestly, then you improvise or you die. The first patrol begins at dusk. You move through burned forest toward a fallen object still smoking. You count your team every minute because you learned what happens when numbers shrink silently. You reach the impact site and see wreckage shaped like the one you destroyed, but smaller. It lies inert. You circle cautiously. One ranger tosses debris into its vents. No reaction. Another checks for power. Nothing. You mark it destroyed by impact. Relief flickers, but doesn't last, because you hear distant mechanical steps. You order dispersion. The team moves into flanking positions. A machine appears on the ridge, taller than the first, different plating. You observe before acting. It scans the wreckage, then turns toward your team. Compasses spin. You give the signal. 2 Rangers fire into its vents. Sparks. It doesn't slow. The machine returns fire. 1 Ranger falls. You adjust immediately, ordering retreat downhill. You throw a smoke grenade, not to obscure vision, but to test whether it relies on visual targeting. The machine fires through smoke with equal precision. You discard that theory. You lead them toward a narrow ravine. The machine follows. You signal 2 Rangers to climb above. They drop rocks into its vents. The machine slows slightly. You fire concentrated rounds. It staggers, but doesn't stop. You realize the armor around vents is thicker. Evolution. You switch tactics. You trigger a pre-planned demolition charge you set earlier. The explosion collapses part of the ravine. The machine is buried. You don't wait to confirm destruction. You extract your team. Back at base, you report that vents still work, but require more force. Sheridan notes it. Torres asks about casualties. You report 1 killed. He nods, not surprised. Loss is now baseline. They assign you another patrol the next day. You don't argue. Weeks blur into constant movement. You learn machines operate in pairs sometimes. You learn they send signals periodically. You learn they prioritize human concentrations. You adapt. You start using heat traps, funneling them into zones where debris accumulates. You experiment with magnetic interference, planting metal spikes to distort their navigation. Some ideas fail. 1 failure costs 2 Rangers when a machine detonates itself instead of overheating. You add that possibility to your calculations. Your reputation grows quietly. Other units request your briefings. You explain without embellishment. You emphasize uncertainty. You refuse to claim expertise. Still, Command labels your tactics as provisional doctrine. That word makes you uneasy, because doctrine suggests reliability, and nothing about these machines feels predictable. One night, you intercept a transmission from a reconnaissance drone. It shows a cluster of machines constructing something in a valley, not attacking, not hunting, building. Towers of metallic components arranged in geometric precision. Sheridan asks if you can recon. You say yes before thinking. The mission forms quickly. Infiltrate, observe, destroy if possible. You take 6 Rangers. You move at night. The valley glows faintly from energy pulses. You observe machines assembling a structure that resembles a transmitter, larger than anything you've seen.
You calculate that if it completes, it could coordinate others. You decide destruction is necessary, despite limited explosives. You plan simultaneous vent attacks combined with demolition at the base. The approach goes wrong when a machine detects movement. You abort stealth and accelerate. You place charges while others fire at vents. The machines react faster than before. One ranger is cut down mid-placement. Another drags him, but loses grip. You detonate early. The base collapses partially. The structure tilts. Energy surges. Machines converge. You order full retreat. The explosion behind you tears the valley apart. You don't know if you destroyed it completely. Back at base, drone footage confirms the structure disabled. Command calls it strategic success. You think about the ranger who didn't make it back. Success feels abstract compared to absence. Months pass. Machines spread.